San Francisco is a vibrant city on California's northern coast. Just a few hours away from where I live, it's a common destination whenever I want to get away for a day. Its streets are narrow, and the steep hills can cause some anxiety, but the city itself is rich in vibrant life, culture, history, and diversity. The city boasts stunning architecture, is credited as the birthplace of the United Nations, and has been a haven for immigrants and counterculture movements. It also houses some of the oldest bookstores in the country, and the state itself. With so many people living here and so many artistic voices, it's no wonder I'm drawn here for new reading material. Jesse, over at Bartell's Bookshelf, and I both have birthdays in March, so in order to celebrate, we took our friend Laura to San Francisco for an overnight trip. It was supposed to be a fun, relaxing trip with a visit to the San Francisco Zoo for me and Laura, and then a bookstore crawl through San Francisco's streets with all three of us. The zoo was beautiful. I got some amazing shots, but it was also busy, and many of the animals were behind hazy glass or chain link fence my camera just couldn't get through. But that's not a problem. I was just happy to see the animals. We unfortunately couldn't stay the entire day, as it took us 2 full hours to drive just over 5 miles, because half the streets were blocked off for a St. Patrick's Day parade on the 12th. Still, it was fun. We had a nice dinner at the hotel, and then went to bed. Then, it was time for books. And this is what I came away with. 3. So, unfortunately, San Francisco, as I said, is a vibrant community. It does have a lot of bookstores there, a lot of used new bookstores, usually mixed in. Unfortunately, the prices can be meh. So it was really difficult for us to find a lot of books. Normally when we do book hauls, we tend to get quite a bit because we can find clearance and used books that are in wonderful condition. And, save some money that we were not buying new all the time, and things like that. Unfortunately, this time around, to San Francisco, we had been there before, as Jesse mentioned in his video, to 2 bookstores, and we really enjoyed it. It was fun. Again, the prices had been a little tense at that time, but otherwise it was really fun. We had a great time. We found some really interesting books, and it was great. So this time around, I was expecting, with 2 larger bookstores that we had on our route, that we would find a lot of great stuff. Unfortunately for us, most of the books that we encountered were listed for new prices, or if they were used, they were like $10 and over. It was very rare to find books that were under $10. So I did find books that I wanted, but none of them were in my price range. So it was a little difficult to find anything. Hence why I only came away with 3. So let's go ahead and talk about these 3. So the first one I got was the Neverending Story. This one actually came from, Borderlands Books. This was a bookstore that we had gone to before, so it actually wasn't on our list, unfortunately, our original list, I should say. But the Neverending Story by Michael End, I think is how you say his name. I took German, you'd think I would know. Anyway, so a very, very famous story. I'm sure most people have seen the movie, or if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. It's a wonderful movie. Unfortunately, the movie only covers about the first half of this book. So I had read the book before, a long time ago. God, I'm old. So I had wanted to reread it. We had planned, Jesse, Laura, and I had planned on reading the book as a buddy read for our book club that we have going on. But I didn't actually have a copy. The original copy I read was from the library, and it was like years ago, so obviously I had to give it back. And I had been looking for a copy for a while, and I'd been finding some here and there, but for not great prices. Even here in my hometown, I would find it for roughly $9-10. But this copy was $3 and is in actually pretty decent condition. You have the, a little bit of a break right here, so it's obviously been read, but that's nothing for me. It's a paperback, so they're meant to be kind of sturdier. It even has some illustrations in it. For all my Death Note friends, I'm sure people are getting triggered for that one. But yeah, so this was a beautiful copy. I'm really interested to see how I get on with it. Like I said, I read it a while ago, and I'd forgotten most of it, actually. Actually, when I was talking to the cashier, I had mentioned that I never read the book, and then Jesse corrected me saying I had. That's how my memory works. For some reason, I forget what I have and have not read. So I rely on other people to tell me. The next book I got, I believe this one was from Green Apple Books. No, I'm sorry. This was from Russian Hill Books. I apologize. This is Slaves of the Shinar, I believe is how you say that. And so the title caught my eye. The synopsis caught my eye as well. But what was really interesting is that it says here, it's uncorrected proofs. Publication date is meant to be July 2007. So this book, this copy, is actually actually not a finished book. So what this is something that you would give to an editor or to a beta reader, or somebody that you're trying to sell the book to, maybe somebody to sponsor it or something like that. So you would give them this, and it would, just be like a regular book, but it's going to have mistakes in there. It might even have notes in here, saying where somebody needs to change something, things like that. I'm not seeing any notes. Maybe the person who had this didn't go so far. I'm not seeing any author notes either. But I thought this was really interesting because it's something you don't typically see. And as a writer myself, I thought it was interesting to have a book that still has mistakes in it. And we've all come across mistakes in books before. Even famous books will have typos. Harry Potter has a few, actually. In the earlier editions, I think most of it's been corrected. Things like that. So, I believe Lord of the Rings even has a few typos, misspellings, things like that. So, it's really, really, really cool for me to be able to hold a book like this. And you have this author, Justin Allen. Or maybe she, I'm not sure. They're at the very end of the book writing process. They're getting ready to publish. They're almost there, and they still have mistakes. Or potentially still have mistakes. So it's kind of a milestone or a mile marker in a way. And it's really encouraging to see that. To see somebody working through the process still, and having something that looks like a completed book. Like it's here, it's in my hand, it has a cover, it has pages, it has everything, and still not be done. So it's a good way to remind myself that writing takes time, and I'm really interested to see what goes on here. And I'm what I might end up doing too is getting a copy of the finished product, because it says it was supposed to be published in July 2007, seeing as it's 2022 right now. I would imagine that it's been published. So I might get a final copy and then just compare, see what happens. So this is really interesting. I'm excited to see that. So to give you an idea of what this book's about, in case anybody wants to take a look at it. see here. The storied land of Shinar can be both brutal and forgiving. For two men making their way under its harsh sun, it is a land of fate, blood, and strife. Uruk is a nomadic thief from the jungles of sub-Saharan Africa. Braving the hard walk across the desert, his destination is the fabled city of I don't know. The temple's swollen with riches. Its temple's swollen with riches. I can't talk today. Ander is a slave, and has been since youth. But when a chance of freedom presents itself, he strikes, vowing to destroy his captors by whatever means necessary. As these two men navigate the world they share, an ancient world which first-time author Justin Allen has painstakingly researched, their stories converge in a tale of destiny, triumph, and death. So it's really interesting. It's cool to see something set in more, I'll say, African areas. I'm not used to books set in that kind of area. Most books are set in very familiar, I guess, to at least Americans, in very familiar settings. So I'm really interested in seeing that. I love books that take me to new places, be that a fantasy world or other. So the blurb back here was interesting too. Part Genesis, part Gilgamesh. This is the first novel in a triumph of both the literary and fantasy traditions. So this is gonna be interesting. Somebody clearly was backing this. Somebody clearly thought this was going to be a good story. So I'm really interested in seeing how that works. And the final book I got over at Green Apple Books was Skeleton Tree by Kim Ventrella, I think it is. This book just kind of caught my eye because this cover is amazing. I like this cover. But it was like a kid's book. This was only like $2. So I grabbed that as much as I could. But it's a very odd sounding book. So to give you an idea about it, 12-year-old Stanley knows the bone growing in his yard is a little weird. But that's okay, because now he'll have the perfect photo to submit for the Young Discoverers competition. With such a unique find, he's sure to win the grand prize. But, oddly, the bone doesn't appear in any photos. Even stranger, it seems to be growing into a full skeleton. One that only children can see. There's just one person who doesn't find any of this weird. Stanley's little sister. Mischievous Mirren adopts the skeleton as a friend, and soon the two become inseparable playmates. When Mirren starts to grow sick, Stanley suspects that the skeleton is responsible, and does everything in his power to drive the creature away. However, Mirren is desperate not to lose her friend, forcing Stanley to question everything he's ever believed about life, love, and the mysterious forces that connect us. So that just sounded like a wild ride. There's a bone growing in the backyard, and nobody seems to find this odd. I mean, they seem to find it odd, but they're just kind of a very benign sort of odd. In the quote back here by Paul Griffin, the winner of When Friendship Follows Me Home. The author of When Friendship Follows Me Home. Sad, funny, and so sweet. Skeleton Tree reminds you that life is miraculous when it's rooted in empathy and hope. So yeah, this is just a weird, interesting book. It seems to be for younger readers. Obviously, the main character's 12, so I'm going to assume it's meant for kids around that age. But I don't care. I'll read pretty much anything as long as the story sounds good, and this just sounded wild. So I had to have this. And like I said, it was like $2. So that was my haul from the San Francisco trip. 3 books. Yay. But we are going to Reno in a couple of weeks to celebrate Jesse's birthday. So I'm hoping our book crawl there will be a little bit more fruitful. I'm also going out a little bit later today to mostly sulk about only getting 3 books. So we'll see where that takes us. And yeah, that's about it. I'll go ahead and post some of the photos that I took at the end of this video of the animals in San Francisco Zoo. A lot of them, like I said, were hazy, not that great, but photography is my other passion, at least animal photography is. My favorite thing is to take pictures of animals that are in zoos. Yeah, that was about it. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if you recommend any other books, things like that. And we'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us here on Plot Twist, and have a great day. Keep reading.